Hi, and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mama Dreads. Thank you for joining me and for cooking along with me. Be sure to check in the description box below for the full recipe. There'll be a link there to the blog so you can follow along with both the video and the recipe. So gather your ingredients and join me in the kitchen. Today we are making vegan pork bao buns. That's a tongue twister. And here we have all of our ingredients ready. In the bowl we have our flour. To that we're going to add our sugar, our salt, our teaspoon of baking powder, which I always sift. It's really good to do this to get rid of the lumps. Our yeast, our 1/3 cup of melted earth balance, and 1 to 1.5 cups of water. I'm going to start out by using only 1 cup and then I can add from there. And we're going to give that a mix until we get a dough that is easily handled, and then we will transfer it to the counter. And here we go. We have a dough that is starting to come together, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer that to my counter. And we're going to go ahead and start to knead. We're going to knead for about a total of about 10 minutes. If the counter begins to get sticky, you can always dust it with a little flour. There we go. You're going to pull over and push under. We didn't have to add any more of the water, but sometimes, depending on the type or brand of flour that you purchase, you might use more than the 1 cup, anywhere from between 1 cup and 1.5 cup. This process can also be done in your stand mixer. I just find it easier to do and less cleanup because it's pretty simple dough to do it by hand. So here we are. We're about at the 10-minute mark. As you can see, we have a nice, shiny, smooth ball of dough. That's what we're looking for. You can see that gluten is well developed. So we're going to shape that into a ball. And we're going to place it into an oiled bowl. Just a little bit of oil to prevent it from sticking to the bowl. And then we're going to add our ball of dough. Move it around so it is completely covered. And then cover it with plastic wrap. And we're going to set this aside for 1 hour. And while this is proofing, we're going to go ahead and prepare our filling. And here we have all of our mise en place, our ingredients measured out and ready to begin. Start by adding the vegan pork to a bowl. I really love these. These are by Wegmans. I don't know if you have a Wegmans near you, but they're called Don't Be a Piggy, and they are absolutely amazing. So whatever vegan meat you are using, begin by adding all of your ingredients to the bowl. I'm going to give that a good mix. So here we are all mixed. And what I like to do to get the consistency that pork would have in the dumpling, I'm going to drizzle in some oil to the mix. Maybe about a teaspoon, half a teaspoon, just enough so that when you mix it together with your hands, like this, you can see that it'll form clumps like your meat would do. So you're not having dry crumbles when you bite into the dumpling. All of our ingredients are now combined. We'll set this aside and begin working on the dough. So we have let our dough rise for an hour, and she's looking really wonderful. There we go. And in the meantime, I went ahead and prepped a sheet pan and placed a piece of parchment. You can use parchment or wax paper. I use wax paper, and dusted it with a little flour. So we're going to remove our dough from the pan, dusting our surface with a little flour. We're going to punch down our dough, and we're going to divide it into 5. We're going to be working with 1 piece of dough at a time. So we're going to take the other dough and move them aside, and we're going to cover those with a little plastic wrap. You can add a little bit of water to the surface and so you can get a better grip. I'm just going to roll it into a log, working from the inside out. And you're either going to use your eye and divide each piece into about 6 pieces, or like I do, you're going to weigh each piece out. I like the consistency of weighing. This way everything cooks at the same time, but if you don't have one, you can make do. We're going to cut each piece looking for about 30 grams. I'll accept anything from 27 to about 30 grams. There we go. We're going to continue this process until all of the dough is done. And using our hands and rolling each ball, each piece, into a nice tight round ball. 1 hand or 2. And putting each piece on our prepared sheet pan on our floured surface, covered again, once again, in plastic wrap. So while we are waiting for our dough to rise, we're going to get out some parchment paper, and we're going to cut out little squares so that each dumpling will have its own little square to set on. So I'm going to make strips of about 3 inches wide. And again, we want to make enough pieces for the amount of dumplings that we have. Here we have finished all the dough. We're going to go ahead. I got 31 pieces, so you want to shoot for that as you're cutting and dividing your dough if you're not using a scale. We're going to cover them all in plastic wrap lightly, pressing it down slightly, and then covering it again with a kitchen towel and setting it aside in a nice warm spot for 35 minutes. And here I have gathered the ingredients to go ahead and prepare the sauce while I'm waiting for the dumplings to continue to rise. And here I have added sweet soy. Into that I'm going to add soy sauce, garlic, ginger and hot pepper, scallions, and some sesame oil. I'm going to give that a good stir, and then we're going to taste it and adjust it according to personal preference. And our dumplings have risen and they are ready. So we're going to lightly flour our surface, and we're going to work with, for now, 1 piece at a time. Pressing down slightly, making sure there's enough flour so nothing is sticking to your rolling pin. And roll, shift, roll, roll, turn and roll. I like to roll out 3 or 4 pieces at a time. Cover each one in plastic wrap. Cover them with plastic wrap while I'm working on the next pieces, and then go ahead and fill them. So working with 1 piece at a time, we're going to take a little water, get a little bowl of water. You can use a brush for this, but I like to use my fingers. And I just like to wet the outer rim of the wrapper, of the bun, so that it sticks together nicely. Then we're going to go ahead and take about a spoonful of our filling, and here's where you want to squeeze it together to make that the consistency of a traditional pork bun, so that when you bite into it, you're not getting loose crumbles falling apart in your mouth. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and roll our dumplings. There's so many ways to do this, but this is how I do it. I like to pull up a piece and pinch it together and work my way around, pinching all the way around the dough until I get this little pouch, and then I squeeze tightly so they pinch together, and there we have it. We make this little packet, just like so. I'll show you that again. And we're going to lift up one edge and rotate. There are so many ways to do this, so many shapes you can make. This is my way to do it. It's easy, it's pretty. Remember not to overfill. That's really key. You don't want your filling to be squeezing out over the top, and you really want to squeeze it tight so that your little pouch does not open. And we're going to place each one of our dumplings on a piece of parchment paper, just like so, placing them back onto a prepared sheet pan. I just covered it with a little wax paper, and again we're going to cover this with plastic wrap as we work with the remaining dough. So once all of your dumplings are shaped, filled, and ready, you can go ahead at this point and freeze some of them. The 31 dumplings at one time is a lot, so I like to tend to freeze them in a sheet tray, and once they're frozen, put them into a baggie or something and keep them in the freezer. And then at a later date, when you want them, you can take them out, bring them to room temperature, and proof them for another 45 minutes. So after filling, you're going to cover them again, once again, for the very last time, I promise. Cover them in plastic wrap, cover them with a towel, and let them rest for another 30 to 40 minutes. So while our buns are rising for the last time, we're going to go ahead and prepare our steamer according to the manufacturer's directions. But I also wanted to show you how to make a makeshift steamer. Take the largest pot that you have in your house. This is my favorite pot. It was my mother's pot. It's a heavy-duty stainless steel. Been through the war, it looks like, but it's wonderful. Take that and you can put a small bowl upside down into your pot. Add water. And then you can take a plate and put it upside down because you want the water to run off. Place it in your pot. And from here, when your dumplings are ready, you would place them in your pot around the plate. Cover them and steam them as you would in the steamer. I just wanted to show you our makeshift steamer that is steaming away nicely. Add way more than this 3. I just wanted to do a few so that you could see how possible it is to make these without a steamer. So here we are. The buns have risen and they are ready to go into the steamer. I have turned the steamer on to get it ready. We are going to add them to them, giving them enough space to rise. They do rise quite a bit. Spacing them out on top of their parchment paper. And we are going to cover and steam for a full 10 minutes. And here we are. Our 10 minutes are done. Let's go ahead and take a peek. And look at that. Wonderful. And we're going to remove them. All fluffy and soft and amazing. There we have it. Homemade vegan steamed pork buns. I am so glad to have you in the kitchen with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you make these for yourself.